we talk about some successful companies and organizations and why they actually make a difference. And for that, there was a book which is written by Simon Sinek, and which is Start with Why. Has anyone come across that book, or has anyone read it or aware of this book? You can use the chat window to give me some sort of a sign. A simple yes and no would be good. Brilliant book. Okay, so someone has read it. Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. No worries at all. Thank you. Thank you. So some of us has got experience to read it, and some of us has said that this is a brilliant book, and I would absolutely echo on that. So if you are interested, this is something I think which you can probably explore in a bit more detail after this webinar. But for the time being, this is a concept, or this is an idea which I would like to leverage from his book, which is the golden circle. Okay, so for this, in his book, he basically explained in a bit more detail, but what he was trying to say is, for all the successful companies and business and people, like individuals, and some of them actually really make a difference and the rest don't. So what actually made the difference? So according to Simon Sinek, and he said, the people and the organization who actually made a difference is because they start with the reason why, okay? Why they're doing certain things which they do, which means they understand the vision and they understand their mission behind their effort, okay? So they focus on the why, and then they devolve into the how and the what. So in reality, okay, this is what I have observed in my experience as well. So if you challenge some of the teams, or if you challenge some of the organizations, and you will realize that some of the teams and some of the individuals working in the team, they are probably very aware, or they're very clear about what they do. Okay, so this is my job, and I know ins and outs of what I do, and I know what are the outcome of my work, and I know what I'm here to deliver. However, they tend to get lost in the what and the how, in their jobs, but they forget about the purpose, and they forget the reason for their existence, and forget about the picture which they have got in play in this organization. What collectively are we here to deliver? What are the purpose? What are the mission? What are the value? Because they are very focused in their own word. Okay, whereas there's no right or wrong in that, but it is actually a good point, for us to raise that awareness in terms of, does your team or your organization know why you are doing what you do? What is the purpose you are serving? What is the higher purpose which you are serving in your organization? And do you understand the reason why we are trying to deliver Agile, why we are transforming against Agile ways of working? Because if you don't understand why, things will start to fall apart. We are just doing for the sake of doing it, without having that direction, without having the guidance from the reason behind what we do. Okay, so my advice here is, if you are not 100% sure, or if you feel your organization or your team is not 100% sure about why you are doing what you are doing, then please take some time, and then make sure that you take that time to discover as a collective group, in terms of finding out your why, in terms of clarifying the purpose, why we are trying to transform into Agile ways of working. And once you get that clarified, and try to communicate it, so it's not just about yourself as a person, it's about your team, it's about your organization. So trying to communicate it and clarify it with the organization, and even to the outside world. Okay, so that it would make sense. And starting with the why would actually help in many ways. So we mentioned about it, it's like a North Star, right, which provide guidance. It will also help you to always focus on what is important, and also it help to align all the effort from your team, from your organization, in terms of having a more inspired team, and trying to gather your team, your customers, on the same journey. So you bring everyone aboard with you, and your leadership team as well. And it is very important for your longer term success. Okay, so this is where we were talking about having understanding why, the purpose of why we do what we do. All right, So there was a research which is being conducted, and the research is conducted by, I think the company is called Digital AI. So Digital AI have conducted some researches based on their researches of thousands of companies, and they actually came up with some report. And this one, which I've taken reference from, is the 15th annual State of Agile report. I have provided reference there, and there are some interesting information in that report. If you are interested, then please take it from there and have a read on the whole document. So basically, in this research, it has asked the question, for example, why do organizations, actually transform to agile ways of working or adopting agile? So as we can see on the top reasons, okay, this is what they have said based on their research. In terms of flexibility and speed, still top of the reasons. So the first two, we have got enhanced ability to manage changing priorities and accelerate software delivery. Okay, so these are IT companies which they have researched on. So it doesn't matter if it's like software delivery or delivery time to the market, trying to make that quicker. But generally, since it's about the flexibility and it's about the speed of delivering to the market. So one thing here is some organizations, they actually recognized and they benefited from the value of agile, okay, which is very, very important, especially nowadays, because what happens now, I think everyone is aware, and especially with COVID, we are in this VUCA environment. So VUCA is the term which we regularly used to describe a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment which we're working in. Okay, we call them a VUCA environment. So being agile and have that flexibility and have that ability to manage changing priorities is extremely important in the current working environment. However, there's one thing I would like to point out, okay, and this is what I've learned from my personal experience as well. And from what I've learned, so basically, if, say, for example, a particular dress looks very good on a model, okay, and I'm always inclined to buy it because that's my envision. I want to look as perfect as the model. But unfortunately, sometimes it does not work out to be exactly the same way as what I've imagined. So some of the dresses does not suit me. Yeah. So this actually taught me a very important lesson. Just because something is fit for other people doesn't mean that's for me. And same thing for Agile transformation as well. Just because other people are doing Agile doesn't mean that that's the right solution for me. And for us to adopt Agile, I think one very important step is for us to understand why we are doing it, and also, is it fit for purpose for us? Okay, is it fit for purpose for our organization? And this is the answer I think we need to understand. So in a way, whereas it might be helpful for other organizations, to achieve flexibility or to increase their speed to market and to helping them to improve their customer or employee satisfaction. And it doesn't mean it is a solution for us. It might not be. It might be, it might not be, okay? But we need to understand it. We need to understand Agile. We need to understand what the value, the frameworks, the processes, the practices, the tools which they're using. And then we need to test it. And we need to find out, saying, okay, is this for me? If it is, then let's develop more, let's find out more, and let's dig a bit deeper and trying to do a little bit of test on some of the teams or some of the projects. And then we can leverage from the experience and from the lessons learned. Okay, but that's very, very important. Okay, so carry on then. So we talk a little bit about the why, okay? We understand the why. And then I think the next reasonable question would be how to do it, okay? So from my experience, I think there are a couple of things, a couple of bullet points which I've listed here, which I would like to advise. And at least take this into your consideration for your Agile transformation journey. Okay, at least think about it when you are starting doing it. So here I've mentioned the 5 bullet points, and this is something which I would like to explore further. So first of all, I would like to start with system thinking. So we are going to introduce a bit more, but this is mainly about the system which we're in, and also use the system thinking to understand the environment. And the next one is to devise a strategy. And also we need to construct the plan in terms of how are we going to go about it. And then it's about focus and work with your client, because these are the people who are probably the most important, right? If they are happy, we will be happy. If they are not happy, then there's no business for us. So focus on them and make sure you look after their needs. And also leadership, okay? So get the buy-in and make sure that you engage your leadership in every step you're taking. And lastly, I've got here is regarding leverage the guidance, from some of the change processes. And here I'm going to introduce one model. Obviously, there's a lot more out there, but I think I'm just going to give you my experience of my preferences of what I use for guidance purposes when dealing with change. Okay, so let me just take a pause very quickly. Okay, I just want to check, does everything sound so far, is everything okay? Is everyone following me? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. So let's take a look then from the very beginning. So I mentioned about system, I've mentioned about system thinking. So first of all, can I just ask for your input in terms of what do you understand as a system? What are your take from the word system? What does that mean to you? Okay, I've got some really great answers coming already. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, okay? It's what do you think that means to you? So no right or wrong, and please just put your opinions in there. Okay, so I have got some answers. All right, okay. So I've got interdependency of paths to achieve an outcome. Beautiful. A set of processes that work together to achieve the same goal. Okay, everything that can be impacted by the project product. System is a group of principles, collective whole of specific modules or parts serving a purpose, holistic view, structured process and people, plan and coordinate. Okay. Okay, wow, okay, very good answers. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to read it one by one because these are all very beautiful answers. Thank you very much. Okay, so when we talk about the system, yeah, I think some of the answers are absolutely right. A system is a group of interacting, interrelated, and interdependent parts which form a complex and unified whole, which has a very specific purpose. Okay, so the key part here, the key thing here is about the interrelated and interdependent. Okay, because if we have a system, its parts has to be related in some way. Yeah, so without this interrelation, without this interdependency, we only have a collection of things. We don't have a system. A system is something which connected somehow and they work together to produce something or to actually serve a purpose. So in that sense, if you look at it, our body is a system, yeah? And our society is a system, and our organization is a system, and our relationship or our marriage is a system as well, okay? If you think your marriage or your relationship is a collection, then I would advise you to see a marriage counselor. But everything which we talk about here is a system, okay? So the system is like how we work together to make things work. Okay, so here, in this picture, if you look at it, we have got 6 blind men, okay? They are trying to understand how an elephant looks like. So for the person who has touched the ear, the elephant is a fun. For the person who actually touched the belly of the elephant, it looks like a wall. It feels like a wall, sorry. And then for the person who touched the tail, it feels like a rope. So all of these people only see part of the system rather than the whole system. Okay, and this actually enlighten us about how important it is for us to adopt system thinking. So what do we mean by system thinking then? Okay, so we understand a little bit about system and what do we mean by system thinking? So system thinking is the process of understanding how things influence one another within a whole. Yeah. So if we change anything, we need to make sure that we check in our system and our ecology, our environment in terms of, okay, so this has been changed. What are the parts which we have impacted, and how we can actually, you know, by changing this and potentially working with the rest of the system to make sure we optimize the whole change so that we can deliver something which not only work for us, but potentially benefit the rest of the system as well. How can we do this more effectively as a whole? And maybe, you know, just optimize the whole process. We don't know that unless we know something about the system. Okay, so for example, if we talk about system thinking, we'll be talking about understanding how the organization is structured, yeah, and how the business processes are interlinked, and also, you know, how like the different roles people are playing in terms of to make things work, to make a process work, to make things tick. And also what are the roles, obviously some of the leadership roles play, and also how can we get their buy-in, so on and so forth. So these are all interlinked, and we need to think about it when we're trying to implement any change. Okay. And another thing I want to mention here is system thinking also goes beyond the surface. Yeah, so instead of understanding the event or understanding the data, from observing those events and data, we actually go underneath and we're trying to identify the patterns, the trends, and of the behaviors over time, so that we can actually surfacing the underlying structure and the values which drive these events and patterns. So we go underneath and we're trying to understand a little bit more in depth in terms of, okay, how can we gradually optimize or deliver some sort of value to the system which we're working? Okay, so this is a little bit about system and system thinking, which I would like to invite you to bear in mind. And when you implement any sort of change, okay, agile, non-agile, it doesn't matter, but have an ecology check, have a system check of what are the things we're trying to do, what are the likely impacts which we might have, and then how can we optimize it and maybe deliver some more value for the rest of the system. And once we have understand the system, we understand our environment, and you know, we need to look at how we can actually devise a strategy, how we can actually have some sort of like a plan in terms of to deliver this particular change. Okay, so strategy development. So this is referring to a process which we are trying to identify what are our strategic opinions, like options, sorry. What are our options? What can we do? And then from there, we can select the most effective or the most efficient one, and we can decide how we're going to optimize the resources we have, and how we're going to make the best out of the available resources to probably optimize the value to achieve the outcome which we intended. So here I have actually made a graph on this. Okay, so let me walk you through on this. So this slide is literally a tiny framework to think about how do we develop organizational strategy. Yeah, so if we look at this, I have got 5 questions listed on there. So starting from where we are now, okay, and understanding where do we want to be, so that's the vision. And then figuring out, okay, so from where we are now to where we want to be, what is it, you know, like how are we going to go about it? How do we get there? And then after we have got that vision and that view, will come up to what do we have to do? So we're having a plan, we're having actions, and then how do we execute all the actions? So this is how this whole thing planned together. So let's go by all these 5 questions in a little bit more details. So in terms of where are we now? This is about an assessment or understanding of how are we doing right now at this particular moment. So in our system, what is going well and what is not going so well, and what are our challenges, what are our risks, issues. So basically you have an understanding of how things are working now, and then we can take a decision from there, understanding like the next step, which is where do we want to be? So the vision and the value which we're trying to deliver, and also how does success look like in terms of the business level, function level, and team level. So we will have understanding of that vision, and then, you know, how also have a bit of thinking about how can we measure it. So we want to be there, but how do we know we're there? So you need some sort of measurement or metrics in terms of helping you to define, saying, okay, now we are there. Yeah. So have a think about all the things before you start. And then once we have done that, and we'll move saying, okay, so now we know where we want to be. So how do we actually get there then? So what are our options? What can we do? What are the tactics we can apply? And what might be the blockers or what might hindering us from achieving our goal? So this is where you're going to define those things, and you're going to come up with something which is the option you can take that step forward. Okay, and once you have got that idea in terms of, okay, how and what is the next question in terms of what are the steps, okay, what are the system which we need to approach, and who do we need to engage, for example, and then like a leadership or something. And during this process, right, what do we need to do? For example, for the teams who don't even understand Agile, do we need to teach them? And for the teams, who probably need a little bit of support and in terms of helping them getting, used to the practices, the events, and then maybe we need to facilitate the meetings. Maybe we need to do some help in coaching them. So these are the things you need to look into in terms of what do you need to do. So have a bit thinking and have a bit of plan in there will help you, to get a smooth journey towards later stages. And the last part comes to how do we execute. So this is about understanding what are the key milestones, how does the timeline looks like, what are the quick wins, and also, how does the plan looks like in terms of, okay, in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, what are our action look like? How are we going to execute and how are we going to go about it? Yeah, so this is about a very quick view in terms of developing strategy in terms of whatever the changes we want to implement. Okay. And with that information, okay, so we talk about a little bit about the strategy, and one of the key things is to work with your client, yeah, because as I've mentioned, the clients are the people, the ultimate user, the end user who are trying to serve, and ultimately it's come down to creating value for our clients, and these are the people who are very important for us. So if you have got any experience with Agile or with Scrum, and there was you would know a little bit about the history. So in the 1950s, you will have Demings, and who has got the PDCA and the PDSA. Has anyone heard of that? PDCA, PDSA? So this is like plan, do, check, act, or plan, do, study, act. So this is like a circle in terms of, how we actually get some feedback from the client, and how we, like alter or adopt. Thank you. So some people already said yes, thank you very much. Apologies. Okay, so this is where literally we're talking about the same thing, okay, working with your client. So we would have delivered some like sort of like MVP, and we would take that input, and we would get that feedback, feed into what we're doing, we'll learn from that, and we're feeding, and then we will actually build something new or provide them something which according to them is more value to them. So it's same thing which we'll talk about in Agile, which is about constantly like adapt and improve. Okay, so working with your client, and that's very, very important. Okay, so obviously working with the client is one of the key things, and we leverage on, the build, the measure, the learn, so we're keeping on improve. And also another very, very important stakeholder in the whole picture is your leaders. Okay, it's your leaders. Please do not forget how important the leaderships are, right? Because they have the ultimate say. They can actually, take the funding away and cut your program at least. So these are the people who tend to be neglected. But I would say that, getting their support and getting their buy-in is very important. In my experience, okay, some of the leaders, they can be a little bit stubborn, like who I've been working with, and some of them wouldn't accept any new things, saying that, okay, I'm not interested in that, like everyone is doing that, that's fine, and we are good at what we're doing, all we need is to guarantee we deliver as we do. So for some of the leaders, they have, this is what we call a fixed mindset, yeah? So a mindset is really like a ways of thinking, it's a ways of how we think about things and how we respond to certain things. So when we talk about a fixed mindset, basically the people who possess a fixed mindset are the people who believe ability is innate. Yeah. So if I'm not a good driver, I will never be a good driver. But on the other side, if people has got a growth mindset, their ways of thinking will be different. I might be a bad driver today, but if I put some effort into it, if I'm taking my car out and then start practicing like every day, like for 1 hour or so per day, and by end of the month I will become a F1 driver. Okay, something like that. So at least it's something I can do about my ability. So this is where we need to do, right? We need to challenge their fixed mindset, and we need to, like show them some pictures about what we can do, what we can improve. So we challenge the stereotypical, okay, and we provide them a different view in terms of something that we can improve. Yeah, and also in terms of self-awareness. Self-awareness is one of the key things I think is very important in any social transformation, okay, according to me. Self-awareness, awareness of others, and also awareness of organization. And this is where we need to constantly working on in terms of, are we aware of it to start with, okay? Because only if you are aware, you have the option to change it. You don't know what you don't know. If you don't know about it, there's no way you can change about it. But bring that awareness to yourself, bring that awareness to other people in the organization. You have the chance and you have the possibility to do something about it. Yeah. So think from that perspective in terms of awareness, in terms of what you can do to help your team to improve that awareness. And also some of the leaders, right? They might be very good at certain aspect, but they might have some other blind spot. So this is where, we need to help them to identify, so what are the key skills or the key competencies which we can actually help them to build, and this again lead to the awareness piece in terms of, is there something which we can do to help? Is there something which we can help to provide you more information to help you make a better decision? So think from that perspective as well. And I have mentioned this word servant leadership here. So servant leadership, I think, to the people in Agile world is not a new phase, okay? At least it shouldn't be. So this is literally about being the leader, how I can help my team to grow, okay? So it's not about me, myself as a leader, but it's about my team, the people who I'm working with. How can I empower my team to deliver great value? How can I empower my team to do magic work without my presence? Without my leadership, they can just go there and become self-organized, self-empowered, and to deliver value. So that's something which we need to look at as well. And ultimately, everything comes down to, okay, we talk about Agile, we talk about the test, we talk about, like test and fail and learn from lessons and do something new and experiment something new. This all comes down to a safe work environment. Just imagine if I want to try a different approach, I want to introducing something new to the team, and I will get fired for that. Who would actually raise that again? No, everyone would just bury their head down and do that daily work. No one would actually raise anything or any innovation possibilities to help the team to grow. Okay, so having that or that safety network for people to have that work environment to enable people to test and to enable people to grow from the lessons learned, I think this is very important as well. So one word I've learned, right, is FAIL. So instead of pronounce it as fail, right, I would like you to do it differently in terms of first attempt in learning. Okay, so FAIL, first attempt in learning. Okay, so try to think from that perspective as well. All right. So that's about leadership, okay? So you need to work with the leaders, you need to help them, and you need to help them to grow themselves so that they can help the teams to grow as well. It's always like a mutual relationship. And the last bit, which I would like to mention, is really about the change process, okay? So in change management, in project management, and you will probably come across a lot of very valuable and very interesting frameworks. Etika is one of it, yeah, and we also have Lewin's change model. We also have the 7S change model. We always have the five stage of grief, which is again another change model. So all these models has its own advantages or have their own blind spot, and that's okay. So one thing which I've mentioned here is what I strongly believe in, which is Etika. So Etika is a change model I have used and I have tested in both individual, like myself, and also individual and organizational changes. And I think in a way it is very simple and it's very useful, okay, at least from my perspective. So let me quickly introduce to you, okay, if you haven't heard of this model yet. So basically, this model is built on researchers, okay? So they have done some research, and this is very simple and yet effective and model which actually makes sense. So if you look at it, the ADKAR is the short form for awareness, design, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Let me tell you why I think this is very important. When I work in a bank, yeah, I've worked in some of the large corporate banks. The stage when I know some change is coming is when I have email in my inbox saying that so-and-so, you are invited to attend this training because we are changing the system. So that's why, you know, you are invited to this training because we're implementing this change. But if you look at it from a user perspective, okay, from my perspective, I never know what is coming. I only know that we are going to change the system because now I've been informed to attend the training. So for me, it's always be like, okay, it would be nice if someone could inform me saying that, okay, this is the situation, okay, we have got something, you know, like something changed, or, you know, something can get better, or we have got actually some sort of need for change, yeah? So at least I'm aware of what is coming in my way. And then from there, okay, maybe I can get a little bit of understanding of, okay, so what is it that we are actually going to change? Is it something which would work in my favor? Is it something which I would actually want to have? And then from there, if it's something which I would like to have, then great. You know, if the system is going to help me to be more efficient, it's going to reduce the time. For example, if I'm working like in a reporting, like financial reporting project, if it can help me to reduce my reporting time to, you know, from like 2 hours to 5 minutes, then I would love to know more about that. Yeah, but there's nothing in there at all. So all I've been told is so-and-so, you have been, you know, assigned to attend this training, and this training will happen at this hour of this day, and please make a time to. So if you look at the ADKAR model, okay, these actually describe what I mentioned just now in terms of how the flow goes. So let me quickly introduce you to that. So awareness is about the need for a change. Okay, so it actually emphasizes on the point in terms of why are we having this change and why now? Yeah, if you recollect on what we have talked about, the first thing we have mentioned is understanding why. So that's very important to me, because from that why, right, I will be able to understand, and this is where I would know this is the reason. So now I actually have an inner design saying that I want it. Instead of being pushed to a training, I wanted it because I know I can benefit from it. Yeah. So if I want it, the drive will be different. Don't you think? If you have young kids in your family, if you can recall, you know, any school days, you have to get them ready and then probably drop them to the school bus so they can go to school, and you have to drag them out of bed and do all the stuff. But if you're having a picnic day, because the kids have an inner design saying, I want to go out with my friends, and that's why they will jump out from the bed and they will be like getting ready themselves, and probably they will wake you up even. Right? So the inner design makes a difference. And if the people who are about to go through the change have the inner design, they will become your allies. Okay, they will become your support, and they will help you to enable this change process. So design is very important. So now, okay, I'm very happy about this change. I know it's going to help me so much. So what do I need to do? Okay, for example, if someone is rolling a new change and about new system, so how do I get to know the system? So this is where you provide the training, not at the very beginning, but now, okay, it's time. So you provide the people the knowledge. And if it's about Agile transformation, you need to teach people about Agile. You need to teach people about all the things, the practices, the events, you know, the artifacts, which they need to know about. Yeah, so you provide knowledge. So now they're equipped with all the information, with all the knowledge they need, and they're ready to give it a go. And knowledge and ability, bear in mind, two different things, completely different. Just because I know how to do it doesn't mean I can do it. Yeah, I think I know how to drive once, but I will tell you what, I failed my driving test for the first time. Okay, so just because I think I know what I'm doing and doesn't mean that I have got the full ability to do it. So you need practice, you need people to support you, and you need some teams, for example, that are the champion of leading the change, and they can be sitting with you, helping you, understanding what your challenges are and helping to provide the right solutions. So they are equipping you with the ability to actually implement the change. Okay, so once, we taught you the how, and we taught you the knowledge, and we helped you to practice. So now you are getting on with it. You now on the orbit, so you know how to flow, you know how to turn, and you know your way ahead. And where you are doing that, is not done yet, and we are still here to actually reinforce. What does that mean? To reinforce, delivering any sort of change, from my experience, it's like you're rolling a big, let's say, ball. You're rolling a big ball uphill. If you stop, the ball will roll backwards, until you put the ball off the hilltop, and then that's the ball still, they will carry on rolling downhills. But till that stage, you have to keep on reinforcing change. Does that make sense? Is there something which you can recollect? Is there something which you can implement? Is there any other issues? So keep on reinforcing the change. So this explains, I think, part of the reason why I love this model. If you haven't tested out yet, or if you don't know anything about change yet, I would advise you strongly to take a look in detail on the ADKAR model. All right, so that brings us nicely to some of the tips and some of the things which I think, during my experience, I've learned. So we talk about why. Right, it's all about aligning the team with purpose, and we have got to focus on the goal. And with that in mind, right, with that goal in mind, we will constantly course correct. We will change according to the environment. If something changes, how do we adapt? And then during this process, we will always improve. We'll always make improvement towards achieving the goal. And I've mentioned earlier, right, we need to challenge the status quo. However, it's not just about the challenge yet, but you need to strategize. You need to strategize, and you need to strategize with the thinking or with understanding of the system, how you can deliver the ultimate maximize the value. Yeah, and work with your client, your leadership team, and do whatever you can to help them to make progress. This can involve different hats which you'll be wearing. Sometimes you need to be a teacher, sometimes you need to be a mentor, sometimes you need to be a facilitator, coach, or whatever that role might be. So help them, assist them in the journey. And think about the change process. Think about it in detail, and always appreciate your context. Yeah, because every book is different, every organization is different, every team is different. So always have a think about that. In addition, on top of that, appreciate your context and appreciate your working culture and appreciate the people who you're working with. Do whatever makes sense. Don't say that, this is what I've learned, this is a tool I have, I'm going to use the tool to do everything. No, you need to adapt. And one thing I can guarantee you is no matter what sort of changes you are trying to deliver, you will always have resistance. Always, guaranteed. So please anticipate resistance. It's normal. If you are implementing change and you don't have any resistance at all, and I will become very suspicious. So please anticipate resistance. That's normal. But in those conditions, think about how you can manage it. Yeah, because we are working with people, and any change would have some sort of impact, negative impact on people. Any sort of change would have impact on people. So how are you going to manage it? Think about it, and then please do treat people like human beings and manage change with care. So last point, which is always forgotten, is about celebrate your successes. So sometimes we achieve something, and for me, I'm a critic. I always believe there's room to improve. So I always forget to celebrate how far we have achieved, or to forget, how great we have done as a team. But luckily, I have got a great team. So they always remind me and make sure that we have some sort of celebration in terms of our successes, and make sure that we keep on building the team, and we build on the team's confidence, we build on the team's empowerment, so that the team itself can keep on growing. Not just me as a person, but the team, the organization. So I think this summarizes what I would like to deliver for today.